Welcome to Hollywood Information. In this video, we are going to uncover the darker, hidden side of the golden age of Hollywood. We often think of that era as glamorous, filled with stunning actresses who were beloved by millions around the world. But behind the sparkling gowns. 1. Joan Crawford. Few actresses symbolized old Hollywood glamour like Joan Crawford, but behind her wide-eyed beauty and fierce performances was a woman who carried a reputation for being manipulative, demanding, and downright cruel. While fans adored her roles in Mildred Pierce and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, those who knew her personally often described her as a tyrant. The biggest blow to her reputation came from her adopted daughter Christina Crawford's shocking memoir Mommy Dearest. The book alleged horrific child abuse, with Crawford portrayed as a perfection-obsessed mother who beat her children and staged her life as one big Hollywood performance. For decades, audiences were tricked into believing Crawford was simply Hollywood royalty. But beneath the gowns and the charisma, she left behind a chilling legacy that still divides fans to this day. 2. Bette Davis. Bette Davis is remembered as one of the greatest actresses of all time, with a career that spanned over 50 years. Her eyes, her talent, and her fearless roles made her unforgettable. But Davis was also infamous for her venomous temper. On set, she often clashed with co-stars, directors, and producers. Her feud with Joan Crawford is legendary, filled with backstabbing, insults, and even reports of physical fights. She was known to belittle younger actresses and viewed anyone as a threat to her stardom. Audiences saw Davis as witty, powerful, and bold. But to those around her, she could be exhausting, manipulative, and cruel, a far cry from the courageous heroines she often played on screen. 3. Judy Garland. Judy Garland's story is one of Hollywood's saddest tragedies. While she remains beloved as Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, her real life was anything but innocent. The studio system played a role in her downfall. MGM reportedly controlled every aspect of her life, putting her on extreme diets, supplying her with amphetamines to keep her thin and awake, and barbiturates to make her sleep. By adulthood, Garland had become erratic, unreliable, and heavily addicted to substances. She would often miss performances, lash out at colleagues, and spiral into public meltdowns. Fans adored her angelic voice and girl-next-door charm, but in reality, Garland was battling inner demons that made her difficult to work with. The world was tricked into idolizing a version of Judy that the studio had carefully manufactured, while the real Judy was breaking down behind the curtain. 4. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe is Hollywood's ultimate icon. But while audiences saw her as a bubbly, carefree blonde bombshell, those who worked with her often described her as one of the most difficult stars to handle. She was notoriously late to sets, sometimes by hours, and would repeatedly forget lines, leaving directors and co-stars furious. Monroe's reliance on pills and alcohol only worsened her reputation, as she became erratic and unpredictable. Her image was carefully constructed to be irresistible, innocent yet seductive, naive yet sexy. But this persona was a facade created by studios and managers. Behind it, Monroe was insecure, self-destructive, and often unpleasant to work with. Millions were tricked into idolizing Marilyn the fantasy, not Marilyn the deeply troubled woman. 5. Ava Gardner. Ava Gardner had the looks of a goddess and the reputation of a femme fatale. While she dazzled audiences in The Killers and Mogambo, her private life was filled with alcohol-fueled tantrums, violent fights, and scandalous affairs. She was known for her reckless lifestyle, which included heavy drinking, gambling, and volatile romances, particularly with Frank Sinatra. On set, she was unpredictable, at times refusing to follow direction or showing up hungover. Audiences saw her as sultry, exotic, and unattainable, but the real Ava Gardner often left chaos in her wake. 6. Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor was one of Hollywood's most glamorous stars, known for her violet eyes and extravagant beauty. But she was also one of its most controversial. Her numerous marriages, 8 in total, and her scandalous affair with Richard Burton while he was still married, shocked the world. She was accused of being manipulative, selfish, and addicted to luxury. On set, she was demanding and often refused to compromise. Studio executives dreaded negotiating with her, as she knew her worth and would exploit her star power to get her way. Audiences were tricked into seeing her as a timeless romantic heroine. But off-screen, her behavior often fueled one scandal after another. 7. Clara Bow. Known as the original It Girl, Clara Bow became one of the silent era's most beloved actresses. But Hollywood gossip magazines painted her as a scandalous figure. She was rumored to have numerous affairs, including with married men, and was accused of wild partying and questionable behavior. While some of these stories may have been exaggerated, the studios used her sex appeal to craft a persona that was far removed from who she really was. Behind the charm, Bow struggled with mental health issues and an inability to cope with fame. Fans adored her screen presence, but the real Clara Bow lived a far more chaotic life. 8. Jean Harlow. Jean Harlow, the blonde bombshell, captivated audiences in the 1930s. But her life was plagued by scandal. She was criticized for her provocative image, her multiple marriages, and her alleged affairs with Hollywood's most powerful men. Gossip columns accused her of sleeping her way to the top, and she often found herself at the center of tabloid controversies. While audiences saw her as playful and charming, off-screen she was often described as reckless, careless, and crude. 9. Tallulah Bankhead. Tallulah Bankhead was as famous for her outrageous off-screen life as she was for her acting. Known for her deep voice and sharp wit, she was equally known for her heavy drinking, wild parties, and scandalous relationships. Her drug use and sexual openness shocked conservative Hollywood. She was infamous for making inappropriate comments, showing up late, or walking out of sets altogether. Fans loved her eccentricity and humor, but in reality, she was often considered disgusting by her peers, a loose cannon who couldn't be controlled. 10. Mae West. Mae West was one of Hollywood's most controversial figures. She built her career on sexual innuendo, witty one-liners, and a bold confidence that shocked 1930s audiences. But West was also notorious for her arrogance and selfishness. She wrote many of her own scripts and often forced studios to bend to her will. On set, she would deliberately upstage her co-stars, making sure all attention stayed on her. Audiences saw her as empowering and irresistible, but colleagues frequently found her unbearable to work with. So there you have it, 10 Golden Age actresses you were tricked into liking. The Golden Age of Hollywood was built on illusions. Studios carefully manufactured star images, covering up scandals, polishing reputations, and selling audiences a fantasy version of their favorite actresses. While many of these women were enormously talented, their private lives often told a very different story, one filled with arrogance, cruelty, addiction, or scandal. It's important to remember that Hollywood has always been about image making. The stars we see on screen are rarely the same as the people behind them. And while we can still admire the artistry of these classic actresses, knowing the truth gives us a more honest picture of old Hollywood's hidden darkness. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the scandalous side of Hollywood's golden age, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video so we can keep bringing you more stories from the shadows of Tinseltown. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep questioning the myths of Hollywood.